They say that the loudest person in the room is usually the one with the least to say, and my brother Mark was always very, very loud. For 5 years, I lived in a world of whispers. The whisper of a heart monitor, the soft rustle of bed sheets, and the quiet, rhythmic breathing of my mother as she slowly faded away. My name is Sarah, and for half a decade, my life was measured in 4-hour increments. Medication, feeding, cleaning, and comfort. I gave up everything. I walked away from a career in marketing that I had spent 10 years building. I watched my marriage crumble because my husband couldn't handle a house that smelled like antiseptic and sorrow. I lost my friends because I was always too busy or too tired. I became a ghost in my own life. Also, my mother wouldn't have to spend her final days in a cold, sterile facility. And then there was Mark, my successful brother, the high-powered executive who lived 3 states away and claimed he was too vital to his company to fly home for anything more than a frantic weekend once a year. When he did visit, he would spend the entire time on his phone, pacing in the hallway, looking at his watch as if my mother's illness was a personal inconvenience to his schedule. He would bring her expensive flowers that she couldn't smell and leave before the vase was even filled with water. He never saw the nights I spent crying on the kitchen floor. He never saw the way her hands shook when she tried to hold a spoon. He didn't see the sacrifice, he only saw the asset. The name of this channel is Spilled at Dinner, but today, the table is empty and the silence is deafening. My mother passed away on a rainy Tuesday morning. I was holding her hand. It was peaceful, but the peace was short-lived. The funeral was held 3 days later. It was a modest service, just the way she wanted it. But as the last of the mourners were leaving the graveside, I saw a black town car pull up. Out stepped Mark, looking immaculate in a tailored suit, followed by a man carrying a leather briefcase. My brother didn't come to comfort me. He didn't come to share a memory. He came with a litigator. We didn't even make it back to the house before he started. "Sarah, look," he said, his voice smooth and rehearsed. "I know this is a difficult time, but we need to be practical. The house is a lot of upkeep. It's sitting on a prime piece of real estate, and the market is peaking. I've already had a preliminary appraisal done. We should be able to close a sale within 60 days. It's the only fair way to settle the estate. 50-50. It's what she would have wanted." I stood there in the mud of the cemetery staring at him. "Fair?" I whispered. "You think 50-50 is fair? I spent 5 years here, Mark. I haven't earned a paycheck in 60 months. I used my own savings to pay for the roof repair last summer. I was her nurse, her cook, and her only companion. Where were you when she forgot how to speak? Where were you when she needed a blood transfusion? You were in Sabio. You were in London. You were anywhere but here." Mark sighed, that patronizing corporate sigh that I had grown to loathe. "Sarah, don't get emotional. Your choice to stay home was a personal one. Legally, the house is part of the inheritance. I have rights as a son. My lawyer, Mr. Henderson here, has the paperwork ready to begin the partition of the property. We can do this the easy way, or we can go to court. But either way, that house is being sold." The lawyer didn't look me in the eye. He just held out a folder. I felt a cold, hard knot in my stomach. I thought about the thousands of hours I had spent within those 4 walls. I thought about the memories of my mother's laughter before the sickness took her voice. To Mark, it was just a line item on a spreadsheet. To me, it was my life. I felt defeated. I felt like the world was telling me that my sacrifice was worth nothing and that greed would always win. We drove back to the house in separate cars. I went into the kitchen and made a pot of tea, my hands shaking so hard the lid rattled against the ceramic. Mark and his lawyer sat at the dining table, the same table where I had sat with my mother every morning for years. Mark looked around the room, already mentally stripping the wallpaper. "We'll probably have to renovate the kitchen to get top dollar," he mused. "The cabinets are a bit dated. The cabinets are fine, I said, sitting down across from them. And the house isn't for sale. Sarah, we've been over this, Mark snapped. The law is the law. Unless you can buy out my half, which we both know you can't, you have no choice. Actually, a new voice said from the doorway. It was Mr. Miller, my mother's longtime attorney, and a man who had been a silent witness to everything that had happened in that house. He was holding an envelope of his own. There's one document you haven't seen, Mark. Mark rolled his eyes. If this is some old will from 20 years ago, it doesn't matter. The most recent statutes. This isn't a will, Mr. Miller interrupted, his voice like iron. This is a deed of transfer. Signed, notarized, and recorded 6 months ago. He placed the paper on the table. Mark snatched it up, his eyes darting across the text. As he read, the color drained from his face until he was as white as the linens. The lawyer beside him leaned over, squinting at the fine print. What is this? Mark stammered. This says the house was transferred to Sarah as payment for services rendered. Exactly, Mr. Miller said, sitting down next to me. Your mother was very aware of the situation, Mark. She knew she was receiving 24-hour professional-level nursing care from her daughter. She also knew that you were contributing nothing, not financially, and certainly not emotionally. She consulted me because she wanted to ensure that Sarah wasn't left homeless after she passed. We calculated the fair market value of 5 years of private and home nursing care, plus the costs Sarah covered for the property's maintenance. The total exceeded the value of the house. The room went silent. Mark's lawyer cleared his throat, looking at the document with a professional, clinical eye. He's right, Mark. This is a legitimate transfer for consideration. It's not a gift. It's a debt settlement. It's effectively blind to the probate process. The house isn't part of the estate. It belongs to Sarah, entirely. Mark looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw him speechless. The golden child was finally realizing that he couldn't talk his way out of this one. He couldn't charm his way into a house he hadn't helped build or protect. You manipulated her, Mark hissed, his voice trembling with fury. She was sick. She didn't know what she was signing. She was more lucid than you give her credit for, I said, and for the first time in years, I felt a weight lift off my chest. She saw everything, Mark. She saw me staying up all night. And she saw you skipping her birthday because you had a golf tournament. She didn't do this to be mean. She did it to be just. She gave me the house because I'm the only one who ever treated it like a home. Mark stood up, knocking his chair over. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't offer a final respect to the mother who had just outsmarted him from beyond the grave. He grabbed his designer coat and stormed out, his lawyer following quickly behind him. I watched the black car disappear down the driveway, and then I sat there in the quiet kitchen. I looked at the empty chair where my mother used to sit. I realized then that her final act of love wasn't just giving me a roof over my head. It was giving me my dignity back. She had recognized my sacrifice when nobody else did. She had seen the invisible work and made it visible. I wasn't just a disappointed daughter who had lost her career. I was a woman who had been compensated for the most important job I would ever do. To anyone watching this who is currently a caregiver, I know how lonely it is. I know the resentment that builds when your siblings talk about fairness while you're redoing the laundry and the heavy lifting. I know the fear that I'll be left with nothing but memories when the end finally comes. My story is a rare one, I know. Not everyone has a mother who can act in time, but let this be a reminder that your work has value, your time has value, and even if your family doesn't see it, the person you are caring for usually does. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking your sacrifice is just a personal choice. It is an act of profound labor and even more profound love. And sometimes, just sometimes, justice finds a way to reveal itself at the dinner table. My brother came for an inheritance, but he left with a lesson. And I stayed in the home I earned. Have you ever dealt with a sibling who only showed up when there was money on the table? How did you handle the fairness of a lopsided family dynamic? Share your story in the comments below. Let's give a voice to the ones who care in silence. This has been Spilled at Dinner. I'll see you in the next story.